All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the September 22nd Community Mental Health Full Board Meeting. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next is the reading of the mission statement. Lori, can you please read our statement?
Macomb County Community Mental Health, guided by the values, strengths, and informed choices of the people we serve, provides quality services which promote recovery, community participation, self-sufficiency, and independence.
Thank you. All right, next is an adoption of the agenda. I would like to adopt the agenda with one change. Item 7C was a request for 2 staff. It is moved to 1. So I'll take a motion to approve the agenda with that one change, if that's okay with everyone.
So moved. Linda.
Whew, surround sound from Selena and I think Linda. Questions, comments? All right, hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The agenda is adopted. Next is hearing of the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on any item on the agenda? You have up to 5 minutes. Come onto the podium and give us your name, address, and we'll go from there. And there's a little button on the base of the microphone to turn it on.
So my name is Tiffany Ncqa. We actually have another lady who's joining us who got stuck in all the flooding and traffic. She thought we were last, so hopefully she'll be here soon. She actually wanted to get this going today. She is a Medicaid recipient of autism services. So I guess just in general, I am the owner of Star Behavior Consultants, which is an autism therapy clinic housed in Shelby Township. The biggest reason that we're here is because we are non-Medicaid providers and really would love to be. And just after some phone calls and things like that, the biggest thing that we're hearing is documented need for services. So a lot of our families that we see and do tours with are either have Medicaid and we're unfortunately unable to see them, or they have to go elsewhere where maybe they're not as comfortable with their child receiving services. So our push is really to, I guess, kind of look at possibly opening up the bid again for new contracted providers. There was an RFP done back in 2018, which I did apply for, but at that point we were not open yet and not an established clinic, so did not receive the bid. Understandably, like we were obviously not chosen because there was other established providers, and obviously that made a lot more sense. But from my perspective, just in doing tours, there's a lot of therapy centers out there now, and I strongly feel that when we're encouraging families to shop around, we want them to find the right fit for their family, and no 2 centers are the same, and I feel very strongly about that. And I don't think Star is the end-all be-all perfect place for everybody because it's not the right fit for everybody. But my goal is for families to have more options and have the ability to choose from a larger pool of centers despite the wait list. Of course, at the moment, as I'm sure you guys are all probably in the same boat, staffing is hard everywhere. So if you call around everywhere in Macomb County, everybody's got a wait list. But I think, of course, that's an important point, but also I think just giving families more options is kind of one of the purposes that we're here for. So I guess we just kind of wanted to lay that out there. And then, Brian, I don't know if you wanted to speak. He's a current family who he has a child who comes to our clinic, and they've also seen the disadvantages from the private insurance end, and kind of we're just hoping to speak on STAR's behalf a little bit. So I don't know if you want to speak a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. My name's Brian Bollier, and like Tiffany had mentioned, my son Jackson, he currently attends STAR Behavior, and he's done exceptionally well since his start there about 3 years ago. And as we all know, what's been happening with, COVID lately in the last couple of years, it's been a big struggle for the family and keeping insurance through jobs. There's been a lot of impact in the automotive industry that I'm currently in. And I just thought it would be the right thing to do to voice my opinion and let you know how much these kids, they really need this therapy and what goes into it. And I believe every kid deserves a chance to have that. And unfortunately, at this time, having that private insurance is very expensive. So my son soon will not be able to attend due to the cost of it. So if he was able to have and be accepted through the Medicaid program and how that whole process works, but he would be able to continue on with his services. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time, and if there's anything you guys could do to help push that and have STAR be a part of that program, it would help not only, my son and family, but there's lots that need care as well. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, I'll thank you again for your time.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. Anybody else for hearing of the public? Anybody else? All right, we will close the first hearing of the public. And we will move on to item 5, minutes. Item A, approval of the minutes of the CMH full board meeting on August 25th, 2021. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved. Support.
Motion from Megan, support from Dana, won the race, I think. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next is item 6, A, approval of the minutes of the CMH Program and Budget Committee meeting on September 8th, 2021. Take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Support.
Motion from Lori, support from Donna. Questions or comments on the committee minutes? All right, hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All opposed? Minutes are approved. Next is item 7. We have several items that were already discussed at program and budget, so I will take a motion to approve items 7A through E.
Support.
Motion from Selena, support from Megan. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one question to Dave. I put it at the program budget, and we know. On both Nexecute and the Afia contracts, we were getting periodic reports on the progress and what benefits they gave us. Do you know when we're likely to get another report on that?
Yeah, I found out about that request. We'd be happy to follow up, submit something in writing to the board.
Okay.
Adams meets on a regular basis with Afia. They're starting back up next month. Yeah, and Nexecute's been working with us consistently, so.
Yeah,
Happy
and
to
I
do
did
that.
reach out to Afia after the program and budget, and they've submitted they submitted some information to me, so I'm pulling it together, and I'll have it ready for program and budget next month.
Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just ask why there were 2 staff and now there's only 1 in C?
Stacy?
Wasn't it originally going to be 2 staff? Yeah.
It was originally going to be 2, but I transferred my credit for the conference over
Oh,
to
yeah, I
Madison.
remember that. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, hearing and seeing none, we have a motion for 7A through E. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And Linda Bush wanted me to tell Tiffany and Brian that if the other member of your party comes, we do have another public comment before the end of the meeting. Thank you, Linda. Next is item 7F, which is a new item. Take a motion to approve CMHSP 2022 grant agreement. Motion from Selena, support was from Donna. Dave, did you want to speak to this one? No? All right, Adam.
These have been coming fast and furious. Okay, it is I think there's another one coming out too. So, Sandy, what page am I on for?
$51.
51?
Oh, sorry,
Oh, that's the substance use one?
right after.
59.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, this is our CMHSP general fund, and this is just the standard contract with the budget amount of 14.8 million. I had it in my notes too, there's already a revision to this that's coming out, so be prepared. These are coming kind of fast and furious. The eGrams has the substance use grants along with the CMH contracts. So there's already an update coming to this. I'll have that summarized. But this is just the initial one setting our general fund budget for next fiscal year. Starts on next Friday.
Already. Thank you, Dave. Questions or comments on this item for Dave? All right, hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All opposed? Motion passes. Next is another new item, 7G. I'll take a motion to approve the MDHHS MCCMH employee contract.
Support.
Motion from Megan, support from Linda. Dave, should I ask Adam to do this one too? You perk up real quick every time.
This is this is our state worker who does our Medicaid. Helps people get on Medicaid, helps them with their spend down. She's been in place, and this is just the renewal. They are hoping to have this signed and approved and everything by the end of the month, or they'll pull her out on October 1st. I informed them that we are about where we are in our protocols, so I think we're good.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this item? Linda, go ahead.
When I first got on the board, we didn't have this position, and it was just a nightmare. So this position is just really, it was a wonderful agreement between the two agencies to fund this, and the person I've heard is always a very good person, and they can explain spend down, so you know. That's
We actually hired the former MDHHS worker, so we have a new one from the state, but she's doing well too. So the one we hired, is she over the autism?
Yes.
Yeah, she's actually over our autism contracts and stuff.
well, they might not keep sending you people if you're stealing them, Dave, all the time.
Let's let them keep sending.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next is item 8, receive and file. We have no items there. Item 9, resolutions, no items there either. So we'll move on to number 10. I'll take a motion to pay the bills.
Support.
Motion from Selena, support from Lori. Questions, comments on the bills? All right, hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All opposed? Bills are paid. Next, we'll move on to the management report. Come on, Richard.
Good evening. Got a couple things for you, so we're going to spice it up a little bit. Wanted to give you just a quick verbal update on some of the projects that we're working on in the finance department, just so that you're aware. We are in the process of implementing our general ledger system that was approved. Thank you so much for that. The new chart of accounts, in accordance with standard cost allocation, has been designed and uploaded into the new system. Vendors' records have been brought over from the county system, have been uploaded into the new system. We've been through our first round of training with the vendor, which has been great. We're in the process of developing some step-by-step tools that staff will be able to utilize with using the new system and our new processes. And we are anticipating a smooth go-live in October. Just so you know, because of the two different fiscal years, right, the old fiscal year will stay open for a couple of months as we get final bills in. So those will be processed through the current county general ledger system, and then any 10-1 services going forward will be in the new general ledger system. So I'm pretty excited about where we're at and where we've come in the last few months. Definitely went from that not feeling like there's enough time to feeling like, you know, we're in pretty good shape for next week. So it's crazy that it's happened so fast. Any questions about the general ledger implementation process?
Megan.
Sorry. I can't remember, was it October 1st it had to be live by, or was it October 31st?
So the general ledger piece of it, we're
Yes.
going live October 1st.
October 1st,
So
perfect.
go next Friday. And then the payroll piece is, we're shooting for January
Got
is our target for that.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions on that, then I'm going to jump into our normal monthly finance report for July. Just a couple of highlights. On page 2, revenue for July was, again, higher than prior year and consistent with what we're seeing April through July, which again is expected with the DCW pass-through now being included in equal amounts each month. So we anticipate that will stay stable through the month of September. Eligibility also remains fairly stable from month to month and much higher than prior year. Just as an update from our last meeting, we did have a conversation with the department, and they have changed their assumptions related to fiscal year 22. So as I might have mentioned, originally when they were setting our rates, their assumption was that the Medicaid redetermination process was going to restart in January of 2022. So they were expecting kind of a drop-off in eligibility. At this point in time, with the extension at the federal level, they're assuming that it's going to last, that the Medicaid redetermination process will not get back into play until 10/1 of 2022. So they're expecting our eligibility to actually stay high for the entirety of fiscal year 2022. So we will keep an eye on that and just see how that plays out. If that is not the case, if eligibility does drop in the middle of the year, the department has indicated that they will go back and revisit those rate assumptions and adjust those to take into consideration that change. So, highlights from page 3 for our balance sheet. Again, assets continue to be significantly higher now than they were compared to prior year, primarily related to the additional revenue that we've received. Again, related to the additional eligibles that we're experiencing this year. So cash balance remains high and in a solid position. From a liabilities perspective, our vendor payables are down a little bit in July compared to the end of last year. Again, primarily related to, we do leave that end of the year AP open for a little bit longer to capture those payables. So in general, net position is up significantly based on that revenue received and that cash on hand. Some highlights related on page 4 to the income statement as we're looking at projections. Again, the annualized revenue is significantly higher this year, almost 60 million higher this year than it was for last year. So we do anticipate that will continue now that we know that the eligibility is staying high. all other areas of the income statement are pretty consistent year over year. A little bit higher in provider services this year, which we would have expected as we start to come back out of the pandemic and things start to open back up, that the service delivery would pick up some as well. Finally, from a highlights perspective on page 5, our breakdown of actual by funding source. Our Medicaid fund source looking at about 38 million surplus through July. Autism about 7.7 million surplus through July for a surplus for Medicaid and autism of about 46 million. Healthy Michigan through July, a surplus of about 1.2 million, and State General Fund about 4 million. So our reserves we expect will be fully funded at the end of 2021 at about 35.6 million. And that's the highlights for our July finance report. Any questions?
I don't see any.
All right. The other exciting addition today should have come electronically is we do have just a first pass at the proposed budget for fiscal year 22. At this point, we will bring it back in October through program and budget for review, and then we are on the calendar for the county commission on, I believe, October 21st is the date, I believe, we're on for presenting that as well. So I just want to walk through some of the high-level assumptions for the board this evening, so we can, if there are questions, we can talk about those assumptions and the potential results. And then obviously would have plenty of time between now and program and budget. If there are detailed questions that you would have, we can respond to those questions either in writing or I can bring those back to the program and budget. So just at a high level, the significant assumptions and key points, our Medicaid and Healthy Michigan revenue is based on our projections from MDHHS. At the time that we put this together, we had received some level of projections of what the department was expecting to be available in revenue at the statewide level, but we had not yet received the entity-specific factor. So again, the state had a pretty good idea how big the pot of money or the pie was going to be for the whole state, but they had not yet determined how that pie was going to be divvied up between the 10 PIHPs. We did get that information at the end of last week, and so I'm in the process of analyzing that and determining what that impact will be on our budget. So to the extent that it is a significant impact, then we would come back with a budget amendment to the board. At this point, we are continuing to do 3 years in terms of projecting out for the budgets, even though we're only really asking for approval, or we will only be asking for approval next month for 2022. But with our current projections, we're not planning on any use of Medicaid ISF at this point in time. So that's good news and strong financial positioning. In terms of the Medicaid and Healthy Michigan expenses, we do anticipate some new expenditures related to the expansion of the CCBHC into the demonstration that starts in October. And primarily that will be, as we have even more opportunities for mild to moderate to come into our system, right? That will impact not only the CCBHC funding we receive, but also the Medicaid, the core Medicaid and Healthy Michigan funding we receive. The CMHSP contract revenue and expenses are budgeted. It's reduced by $177,000, and this is reflective of the 5-year reallocation plan that the state has been taking all of the CMHs through. So this next year will be 2022 will be the second to last year. So we have a reduction to the $7.6 million level this next year, and then one more reduction in 23. So that's all reflected in these projections. We would continue to plan to use general fund dollars for provider stability improvements and increased service proposals as we have been this year. We'll continue that process into next year as well. For the substance abuse prevention and treatment block grant, the revenue is based on the anticipated MDHHS allocations, so what we currently have in the eGram system. And again, most of those services would be provided through the Macomb provider network for those substance abuse services. The county appropriation and Public Act 2 funding, the county match was budgeted $3.7 million. And that's pretty flat from year over year. And then the PA2 estimate right now is at $3.1 million. And we budgeted, or we estimated that from the 2021 budget. Typically by this point in the year, the Department of Treasury would have put out a projected amount or an estimated amount that they would expect for the PA2 funds. Unfortunately, this year, that has not occurred yet. And so if that does come out, as soon as we get it, we would come back with a budget adjustment related to those updated assumptions. Grant revenues, some of those increases continue to be related to the CCBHC grant. And then in general, some of our general expense assumptions is that the payroll-related costs are based on filled and vacant positions that are included in the budget, currently at the maximum pay range for each of those positions. So we do have some room in the budget related to that. Non-payroll related costs are assumed at a 1% increase per year on average. So just really quick from the numbers perspective on page 3, what we're proposing is or estimating in terms of revenues and expenses, $283 million of estimated revenues and $283 million of anticipated expenditures related to that revenue. And that's for all funds. On page 4, if we're looking just at the mental health fund, that's 252.6 of revenue, 253 million in expenses, with 500,000 of anticipated investment income that helps make up that difference. And then on page 5, for substance use, 26.7 million in revenue and 26.7 million in expenses. Finally, on page 6, our grant fund, which when we look at it from a county perspective, so when I present this to the county commission, the mental health fund and the grant fund do get combined together as a single fund on their ledger. But for our purposes, we track those dollars separately. And so about 3.7 million of grant revenues and 3.7 million of grant expenses. So I know it's a first reading and high level. If there's any questions that you have tonight, I'd be happy to either try to answer those or research those, or I'd be happy to take any written requests, and we can bring that back to the Program and Budget Committee.
Ryan?
Mr. Chair. Richard, question about, the budget. And if you don't have an answer today, no big deal. I know we just received it, and this is all tentative.
Sure.
But I'm curious why this year we're running at a $9 million gain, but we're budgeting for a $500,000 loss for the next 3 years. What's the idea there?
So 2021 was my first time getting to budget for Macomb County Community Mental Health. And one of the things that I learned in that process is that while I'm used to, for most PHPs, actually budgeting a surplus, the county is expecting to budget break even, so zero. And so what's a little confusing here, one, is that $500,000 loss is before our investment income, so it does zero out. And then two, that that 9 million surplus does not take into consideration anything that we would give back to the state of Michigan. So any lapse is not considered. And so what I realized is, and what we did in our 2021 proposed budget amendment, it was we actually moved that $9 million and we balanced the budget down to zero. The reason that that's not reflected here is because the 2021, as of the point that we were drafting this budget, the 2021 budget amendment had not been approved by commission yet. So that's why we're presenting it in this format.
So if I understand you correctly, we never used to use a zero-based budget. Now we do. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but sounded okay. But going forward, we're gonna have a budget that's zero, which we essentially have. If we're running at a $500,000 loss, if we make it up at a $500,000 through investment income, that balances out.
Correct. Yep. That's the way that.
Why?
It's expected.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
why are we seeing a decrease in Healthy Michigan in those upcoming years?
So the decrease in Healthy Michigan is
If you don't know, I understand.
Yeah, I think it's specifically related to whether or not we're going to see a reduction in those eligibles. So again, the eligibles for 21 are high, right?
Okay.
The eligibles for 22 are going to stay high, and we do expect that at the end of 22 it's going to drop. And so I expect that in 23, that third column is when we're going to see that drop off, and that's why some of the revenue does drop off in 2023.
Okay.
Yep.
Last question. I know on the statement of net position, we have non-current assets. Is that the same thing as future assets not received? And why don't we have non-current liabilities? Do we have any long-term liabilities that we need to pay, or we could pay with some of the surplus money?
So we do not have any long-term liabilities other than some of the OPEB. And unfortunately, because of the way the Medicaid contract works, is you can't prepay some of those liabilities, or else it's not chargeable to the contract. The non-current assets is very, very limited. It's very small. It's only $60,000 or $70,000, and that's related to some very specific equipment that we purchased a few years ago. And so, because of how the county operates with our fund being part of bigger picture, that's part of why that restriction exists. I know that's a complicated. I can give definitely a more, I say, thorough answer to that, probably in program and budget, but that's the kind of the
High
quick
level.
answer. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Ryan. Donna?
My question is more about process, since this is my first time on the board. You said on October 21st, you'd go before the county to present the budget. What happens after that? Does it then come back to this board? And then after we approve it, does it go to the executive? Can you kind of outline what happens, how the process is?
So the way that it's kind of working, the hope is that program and budget would review it, vet it, and then approve it. And then typically the county commission is kind of the last stamp to officially adopt the budget. And so we would come back and let you know that, yes, the county commission actually adopted it. We have had situations in the past where the county executive makes a recommendation to change something in the budget before it goes to commission to actually get adopted. And so that could happen between approval from this body and commission approval. That's possible.
And then I know there's been some mention about adding personnel into the budget, adding some. Has that been already figured into the budget, or is that something that would have to be added at some point?
So we work with Tracy Smith to identify positions, both vacant and non-vacant, and then we make sure that we have that position list included with what we have for numbers, and we do include those in the budget. So yes, those
have already
positions,
been assumed to be added into the budget.
yes, if we knew about them at that point in time, and of course, personnel is always a changing thing, but if what we knew of at that point in time got built into this budget, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You want?
If there was, just to maybe elaborate a little more, if there was, so let's just say, because it's hard, with staffing, there's a moment in time you're looking at, you have to go, Richard, this is what it is as of this moment. So if there was, we have the total aggregate. So we would come to you and say, if there was a change, like a reclassification as an example, and we were saying, we're using position A, which is budgeted at $30,000. We're asking you to approve $60,000, but then we would demonstrate that there's other line items, still staffing line items, that would cover it. So you would be aware of those if they were different than what was.
So it would be the same amount. You just cover it from
we work
another.
within that, right?
Yeah.
It might just be, it's not, instead of it being here, it's here, or instead of it being 30,000, 2 people at 30, maybe it's 1 person at 60.
I'm pretty familiar with that, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
And Donna, the plan right now for the Board of Commissioners is to have the budget approved at a meeting on November 18th. So that's kind of the Board of Commissioners timeframe
Gotcha.
where we're at right now. But we still haven't seen the budget yet, so we're waiting on it too.
Gotcha.
It's good fun. Anybody else with questions, comments for Richard? I know, like he said, he'll be back at Program and Budget, but if there are any other questions too, please feel free to reach out to Richard directly, Dave, myself, and we'll get them to Richard. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. All right, now it's Dave's turn.
Tough act to follow. Thank you, Richard. I wanted to start by thanking Nick for organizing our field trip yesterday. We went to Lansing. I got to visit Phil, which was very nice. We had an hour-long meeting with Representative Mary Whiteford, just the two of us. Very good meeting. She was very open, listening, taking notes during the whole process. We made our points. There are parts of what she's proposing that we can support, and we very much appreciate her being open to that dialogue. Stressed a lot that with the staffing crisis that was mentioned and the whole system being incredibly stressed right now, and the number of changes that are going on and that we're implementing in October, to the talk of redesigning the system right now is just, it's stressing out an overly stressed system. And I asked, please, if we could have a little break. During the pandemic, it's probably not the best time to, shuffle the cards and in the deck and impact our whole system. Nick, anything you wanted to? No. Yeah. Like I said, she's open, she's listening. I'm still trying to make my way through some of the other video recordings of some of the other hearings and stuff. We did also send out electronically, apparently it was at the bottom of the email if you missed it, the rough draft for our legislative event for next Friday. So please look at that. I made my way through most of it just before this meeting and sent that back to Kathleen.
It didn't go to everybody, just those in the...
Oh, I'm sorry, I just went to the people on the planning committee. So that's why the blank gaze. If you would like a copy, please ask Sandy. I should let Sandy give my report. Yes, thank you. Also on the positive side, we had a employee appreciation event last week. We had it at our new building, the 19800 Hall Road. We had a group of staff who planned everything without my involvement one bit. I will continue to give Tracy a hard time publicly because they planned the event and emailed it out to all of the staff, and then she told me that I had volunteered to have pies thrown at me to benefit charity, which I would have willingly done anyway. And but yes, they had whipped cream pies, and for $2, and it went to the charity. Sandcastles, yes, thank you. Was the beneficiary of our charity event. Then we had the inflatable movie screen, and we had a drive-in, and we had, it's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. It was very well attended, and lots of family were there. Although my family, I think, had the best arm when it came to throwing the pies, which was unfortunate for me. But yeah, it was very active, very involved, and we will continue to do events like that. Also updates on the new building. TJ is working very hard. He stopped by today. The cubicles are up. But because of the pandemic and the supply chain things, the actual work areas are not available for the cubes yet. So we have some of our older furniture inside of the new cubes temporarily. In about a month, those will all be here and installed as well. If anybody's interested in stopping by, we'd be happy to accommodate. Also, we had our last week, our Ncqa kickoff meeting with the Mahalik group. Went very well. We are on a very good path. They will be completing a mock survey, letting us know how we score currently, and then we will work with them. It's about an 18-month process when it's all said and done before we actually have the survey. So we'll continue to provide updates to the board on that. We also had the MTM consultant group kickoff meeting, Adams Point with that. It's for same-day access, and I felt really good at the end of that meeting. They have a really good track record, and they're going to look very closely at the process and give us very practical things that we can implement immediately to reduce those wait times, the paperwork, any redundancies in there, and really improve the experience of people coming into our system. They're looking at a December 15th to have those changes in place. So we'll be able to have tracking and data reports back to the board as well about the impact of those changes. It does coincide perfectly with, as Richard mentioned, on October 1st, which is next Friday. Oh, my goodness. We will be under the demonstration project with the state of Michigan for the CCBHCs. We will be then open to see people in the mild to moderate category, and pretty much regardless of ability to pay. There will be a sliding fee scale. We will be billing third-party insurances. We will be doing all that coordination of benefit. So lots of work going on in that area, and it will be it'll be a learning experience through that whole first year. Kind of everybody's in the same boat on that one. So I mentioned the CMHSP contract revisions are coming out before we've even approved the current one. So welcome to, contract period 2. I guess it's like construction time in Michigan. It's contract time. The CCBHC, there is a certification process with the state of Michigan. Would really like to thank the team working on that. There's some set standards. You have to complete an application process, certification process through the state's website, and that process is going very well. There was some information about the budget that came out from Alan Bolter at the association. And when Nick and I were meeting with Representative Whiteford, I mentioned, the direct care wage increase and how important it was. We're trying to stabilize this workforce, and it's very much an uphill battle. But the way that they were approving it for like 90 days at a time, the providers were very stressed, and that it takes a lot to modify our system. She asked that question specifically, what's involved, and we have to notify providers, we have to calculate all those rates, which Richards helps out with. Yeah, he's that's the correct expression. If it's an hour code and you're adding $2 to it, that's easier. If a 15-minute code, that's easy. When you get into some of the encounter codes that are not time specific or those per diem codes, yeah, it's difficult. So then they threw a wrench and they said, oh, well, it's not $2 an hour, it's $2.25. In the current budget now, it's $2.35, just because they wanted to, so we have to go back, recalculate all of that, make all those changes in our claim system and notify providers, get all that out. It is good. We want as much money as possible to go out to our providers. We also were notified the provider stability process. We were reporting monthly at the end of each month to Al Jansen and Jeff Weifrich at the department. They had gone back and forth about whether or not that would continue. Right at the end here, we did get notice that they want that process to continue through this new fiscal year. So that's when we're notifying them of any additional funds that we've used to help providers with anything related to the pandemic. If we've had closures of a location due to the pandemic, things like that. So it is a good way to keep the department informed. They get a good snapshot statewide, and that's in addition to all the other meetings we're having. Finally, the staffing crisis, which is the number one issue. The department held some listening sessions. They heard clearly from everybody on that call it was statewide. They then did breakout sessions on 2 different topics. I was involved in the one group on that, provided more detail, suggestions. The state has all of that information now, and they will be coming back to us with some feedback. It will not be, a magic wand approach to fix this problem, but I think it will give us some additional options and opportunities to try to stabilize this problem. Time is our enemy right now. The pandemic just keeps dragging on and on and on, and it's eroding a workforce that's already weakened and stressed. So we continue to meet with our providers on a regular basis, provide as much support as we can. So I will keep you updated on that as well. Thank you.
One thing.
Just one tiny thing. As a follow-up to Ryan's question at the program and budget regarding the abandonment rate, the abandonment rate for customer service for the last 4 months, yeah. So in June, it was 5.58%. Our benchmark is 5% based on an industry standard. So this is callers who are waiting on hold and decide to end the call. And July, we were 3.21%. August, we were at 4.11, and we are at 3.96 currently, so on track to stay under 5. So we've been under 5 for 3 months, yeah. So.
Half what the average is.
I'm sorry?
If we're at 3%, the average is 6, we're doing good.
Yes, yeah, we're on track to meet it again for this month.
Awesome.
Yep, yep.
Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
And we are seeing the call volume increase. It's not a steady increase, but there's months that's higher. So those abandonment rates, even with increased call volumes, we're keeping them very low. So
Yep.
yeah, a big congratulations to Chanel and our customer service staff.
Ryan?
Oh, I don't know if it's appropriate time, but Dave, I just want to give a big thank you to TJ. I did look at the new building. I swung by. It's gorgeous. Our staff, it's going to be provide everything that we need. Also swung by the movie Nightmare After Christmas, and a great showing. Whoever put that on is fantastic. It's a big inflatable screen. Everyone in the parking lot looked like a lot of fun. So thank you, whoever put that on.
Thanks, Ryan. Any questions or comments for Dave or Adam? No? All right. We will move on to other possible agenda items. We have a bunch of reminders for board members. The CEO survey and annual board evaluation is due ASAP. Sandy is on my case. Let's get them in, please. Next, program and budget will be Wednesday, October 13th at 6 p.m. right here. Recipient Rights Advisory Committee meeting Thursday, October 21st at 8 a.m. will be at the administration building. As of right now? Oh, it's virtual. Okay, perfect. And then our next full board will be Wednesday, October 27th at 6 p.m. here in this room. And I think Linda had something.
I do.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Bill. 2 things from the association business. Lori sent you an email today and has presented before about our PACT campaign. And so we have the information in front of you about how important the PACT campaign is and what the money is used for. That's our Political Action Committee. And when we sit at the table with great big health plans, our money is small in comparison, but it gets us at the table. So, and then we have Alan. So we do have some influence, and they do get to hear about us. And the other reason that I'm showing you this, that I wanted you to have this, we now can make our donations online. And so the link is there for you to contribute. And it's been our tradition to have 100% participation. So I hope that'll continue. And if you've done it online, let Lori know, because she has a list and she doesn't have a way of knowing that.
Well,
So.
some of them have emailed me to tell me.
Okay,
if
great.
They have donated or
Great.
given cash, and I'll be sending in, along with the check or whatever, but, yeah, and it's really easy, that's why I sent the email out again today, is because you can just click and pay. I love that.
And the other thing is the fall conference. It's the conference of our professional association, the Community Mental Health Association, which is all boards, all CMH and PIHP boards, plus about, I don't know, could be 6 or 7 years ago, they actually added providers to our association. So it's a great networking kind of thing. And this year, because we found with COVID, we do have a virtual client, and some people, I can't wait to go back in person, but some people aren't going to go in person. So they've made it a much more user-friendly to continue virtual if that's what you need to do, and it's a more limited agenda. And there are workshops called Board Works that let you know important things about being, it's a curriculum developed by the Association Member Services Committee that covers all the aspects of being a board member. So it's really worth your time. It's the 25th and 26th of October, and Sandy has a deadline for reservations, right? What is
reservations? I haven't heard from very many people about if they're going to attend or not. I just need to know hotel room if you're attending or if you're going to do virtual.
And then she can register you.
Yeah.
And she'll register you. And of course, the costs are covered. So if you have any questions about the conference. They have keynote speakers. The keynotes are just really wonderful. You hear from the people making the decisions in the state. And that's where I learned a lot of the stuff that I know. So I highly encourage people who haven't participated in the conference to do so, especially at the fall conference. It's our biggest one.
By
Right.
chance, do you know if any of the virtual events will be taped so we could watch them at a later date?
If you're registered, I think they're for 30 days.
Oh, great.
You have to be registered, though.
Okay.
Thanks for asking that, Ryan.
Can I ask a
Thank you, Linda.
question?
Go ahead, Donna.
I registered virtually. I don't feel comfortable yet going, in person to a conference. I wonder if you know, Linda, through the chair to Linda, how much is going to really be offered virtually? I don't know if you have any inside information. I don't really know how much, because I know it's going to be limited.
Full agenda, it just won't be, they're not taping every workshop.
Okay.
So it'll be, you'll get your money's worth if you do virtually.
Yeah, because I did let her know that I really wanted to do virtual. I really don't feel comfortable going to a convention at this point, but I did ask her to sign me up for virtual.
Good, I'd like some feedback, what you think about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Nick?
Yeah, on a different topic, Dave, I saw the responses and your notification that the executive declined to put the gratitude pay or whatever we called it into the budget, and I think it would be appropriate or useful if either you or maybe you and the chair could send a letter to the executive explaining that instead of giving this money to the people who stuck with us and didn't and had to work the full 5 days couldn't get the UI bump that others did. Instead of giving them this dollars, we're giving it back to the state treasury. And, you know, quite frankly, I don't understand I understood his concern about county employees, but I think we basically took care of that problem when we took care of the bulk of that problem when we said, okay, if you got extra pay as a result of the UI systems benefits that the feds created. But for the others that didn't get that, because you work in a residential care setting, you can't go down to 4 days a week when you're talking about a system that's 24/7. And I suspect there's some others as well that, it's unfair to them that they're not getting any benefit or any recognition of that hard work. And to send that money simply to the state of Michigan Treasury to lapse it back is kind of adds insult to injury. And I didn't hear a good explanation, and I asked you about it, and you told me you didn't either, so I'm not asking you to explain the executive's decision, but the fact of the matter is we didn't get a good explanation as to why we were vetoed on that program, which would have cost less than
Nick, I'll
what we
second
returned.
it.
Okay, I so move.
As an update, I did meet with the county executive's office first thing this morning at 8:30. That was brought up. I would like some time to draft that response, double check it with the county execs, and then I'm happy to share. But I did follow up on that.
But I support Nick's idea that we speak on it as a board, as a motion.
You want to rephrase that motion? Or do we want to bring it up next month, that program and budget? How do you want to do this, Nick?
No, I'll make a motion that we send a letter from the board that Dave can draft and we'll review it later, expressing our disappointment and concern about sending that money back to Lansing instead of rewarding the people here in Macomb County who served so well during the worst of the pandemic.
Thanks, Nick. And that was supported from Linda. Are there any questions or comments? All right.
I have a comment.
Ryan, go ahead.
I'm a little concerned over what happened, obviously, and that it was brought up outside of our procedures. You know, we didn't have warning ahead of time, having it gone to program and budget. I just want to preserve any kind of good relationship we have with the county executive, and I don't know if we need a motion. I support Nick's idea. I just don't want to do anything that unnecessarily damages our reputation or our relationship with the county executive. That's all I'm concerned about.
And my only response is I trust Dave to be tactful in the letter, expressing our concern and disappointment rather than calling him names or something. Yeah, we can do this, I think, tactfully and let him know that we disagree with his decision. As a former elected official myself, I think, everybody has a right to. There are things, I think, with any elected official, you have an agreement and you have a disagreement. You have agreements and disagreements all the time, and I think it's appropriate that he knows that we did not agree with this decision. That doesn't mean we don't agree with everything.
And the essence of what he's saying points out that giving it back to Lansing, that's what happened to it.
That already happened.
Phil?
Donna?
I'm certainly not defending, I want to start my statement off with this. I'm certainly not defending the county executive, but I've worked with human resources and I've worked with county departments for a long time. And I think I have an understanding of the way that they think. after 20 years of working with them. And my assumption, and this is only an assumption that I can make after working with them for 20 years at the bargaining table and working with them, they don't like to set precedents with departments. And if he had approved giving this money to one department, their viewpoint would be that it would set a precedent of then having to give it to other departments. And that's something that when we've sat within a bargaining table, they never like to just do something for one department. So I'm not certainly giving an excuse, but I know that's certainly something that they have long held as a philosophy when we've sat across the table with them. I mean, that's not an excuse, but that's certainly something that they really hold very highly as a philosophy, that you do to one that you do to all. So I'm suspecting that that's what was in a mindset, because
That
it's
did
certainly
come up.
been a mindset that they've long held when we've bargained with them, that, you know, you never do something for one department that you don't do for all the departments. So that's just my guess, because they've certainly always held that philosophy with us, so.
Thank you, Donna.
I
Linda?
thought the county departments did get it, and this was for people who didn't get money from the county.
Well, they might not be viewing that in the same
When?
manner, you know, because unemployment is the state, you know, in their own mind.
The county did utilize the work-share program. So, you know, full-time employees would get a day off, or, you know, a Friday or whatever it would be, so they could get that extra, you know, those extra dollars that the federal government was providing. And, you know, we adapted to that and modified our request to disallow those folks. And like Nick said, to give it to folks that didn't receive anything, but were still working through this time. So I understand your point, Donna, and I think that's probably what the angle that they're coming from. But I'm supportive of this, but that's just me. So any other questions, comments on Dave crafting a letter? And he's smirking, so. Selena.
I have a,
So
Selena and then
the
Ryan.
letter is to just express our disappointment. The letter isn't to accuse or to ask them to defend their decision, just to express collectively how disappointed we are.
If I could, at least my intent is that the letter would express our disappointment, explain why we thought he should have approved it, and that we disagreed with his decision politely or respectfully, shall we say, and maybe even add, and especially add the fact that there's this surplus in our general fund that's going to lapse back to the state instead of giving the reward to the people in Macomb County who did that work. So I'm going to trust Dave to say all of that more tactfully than I just did, but I think the executive hasn't been shy about telling the board when he disagrees with us, and I wouldn't expect him to, and I don't want him to. I want to know what he thinks, but I think he has a right to know what we think as well and why.
Okay, because I kind of feel the way that Ryan was saying, you know, I don't want to come in, we are already got a lot of things that we need to work with them on, and I do understand how important this is, but there are some other things on the table that we need them to not say, you know what, we're done dealing with you guys, this is our ruling and this is how we're going to go.
Thanks, Selena. Megan on the first round.
I heard Dana say it. That hasn't happened yet, though, right? So all that to be said, can you also say, will you revisit it?
I think it's too late.
Is it too late? Okay, I heard you ask it. I didn't hear anybody answer. I know.
I think it's too late.
Okay. Thank you.
Ryan, go ahead.
I guess, echoing what Selena had to say, I have a little bit of agita over this, and the reason being is that if what we're going to write, and I understand, of course, it's going to be tactful, I wouldn't expect anything else, but if we're going to write something to the county exec and it's not going to make a dime's worth of difference anyway, I would rather keep our powder dry for a moment when we do express disagreement, when we could get something for it. And so I am going to vote no for this, but it's not because I don't disagree with it, but I just don't think it will bring anything necessarily good.
I was going to mention leaving Dave out of this, but Dave, go ahead.
Thank you for that. But just to be clear again, I did meet with the Office of the County Executive this morning. I asked that specific question. I did get a detailed response. My only request was that I would like to draft that response out, double check it with the Office of the County Exec, make sure it's the clear message, then I can share that openly with everybody. In a meeting such as this, I don't want to misspeak anything. So I do have a response.
From the county, you're saying draft up the response that he said?
Yeah, just to clarify that, as per our discussion, this was the rationale for that, and then I'm happy to share it. I would just, if you can give me a couple more days here to formalize that, and then I do think you'll have the response you're looking for.
Well, based on
Thank you.
the conversation.
Hold on a
then
second,
I
Linda.
can
Hold on,
withdraw my-
Linda. Hold on. Selena and then Linda.
Oh, sorry.
So what Linda was just about to say, so based upon that, do we want to either pull the motion back or rephrase the motion to have this discussion after we understand what the response may be once, Dave's able to put it in writing to us?
Linda, go ahead.
I was going to withdraw my motion based on the conversation until we hear from Dave.
Nick, it was your motion.
Well, if it isn't seconded, we can do this later. I think there's too much of a hesitancy here to letting the executive know how we feel on the subject. But I certainly want to hear what he thinks on the subject as well. I don't have a problem with waiting, but I think that it's an important enough point, especially when we're talking about, what was the total cost of the program, Dave, again?
It could have gone up to 5.6. We didn't have an accurate count on the number of staff that would have actually been impacted.
So
but the
we're
motion was-
talking about half of the amount of money the county is going to lapse to the state. And whether that money stays in Macomb County or lapses or not concerns me a great deal. I want to make sure he understands that it's not
Okay.
$5.6 million that's staying in our bank account. It's going out one way or the other, and now it's going to go outside of the county, and I think he should be aware of that. But, if there isn't a second to my motion, that's fine. I don't care. Dave, I still would urge you to start drafting something because we may want to send something down the line.
Thanks, Nick. So Linda did withdraw her support. Nick still has his motion on the floor. Is anybody going to second that motion? All right, the motion will die for lack of support. Anything else from any other board members? All right, well, I just want to say real quick on behalf of my family and I want to thank the staff, the administration, board members for the phone calls, the texts, the emails, the cards, the flowers, everything that you all have done for me and my family during the last couple weeks of hell have been more than appreciated. And I just want to thank you all personally. My dad, my sister, and the rest of the craft crew, we thank you all for reaching out. It's been helpful. So thank you all for that. With that, we will close other possible agenda items and move on to the hearing of the public. Again, a hearing of the public, give us your name and address. You have 5 minutes to address any item
Good evening. My name's Sean. I'm with Creative Empowerment Opportunities, just to give the monthly report from us. CEO hosted its company-wide picnic and awards ceremony on August 25th and is well received by the staff. Was well received by the staff and persons served. Persons served seemed proud to display their awards to themselves and others. At our Anchorville location, we had over 10 new people start and 5 return. The gardens were cleared and prepped for fall vegetables and flowers. An ice cream social was held for persons served as well. Our Clinton Township location recently had a clothing drive free to anybody. Many name brand items like Nike and Under Armour were given away for free to persons served and those who were in need. They also have picked up a new work site being at Dave's Sweet Tooth. At our Madison Heights locations, they've added more Meals on Wheels routes to their daily activities. At Pontiac, they started delivering Meals on Wheels. And at our Washington location, they had an increase of 5 persons served return. Approximately 140 Meals on Wheels were delivered throughout the month, and 56% of the persons served throughout the month also attended community-based activities. Their fall flowers were planted as well, and a contract for some piecework was established, and they produced almost 4,000 pieces of product. Just kind of short and sweet. That's all I got for the night, but thank you. And I have copies of my report as well.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi. My name is Conchetta Antori. I'm a parent. I have a 9-year-old son with autism receiving services through Macomb County. I wanted to speak to you about the providers that you have for ABA service. Basically, you have 13 or 14 providers for families to choose from. Of those providers, they all have wait lists. I know it's the employee shortage. However, there are other providers, other clinics in Macomb County that do have staff that can take our children. It's just that you're not contracted with them. So I've reached out to Macomb Community Mental Health. I've spoken to a lot of people. I do know that you need to open up a RFP. That hasn't been done since November 2018. And the reason is because there was not a documented need. However, there is a documented need. My son receives 12 hours of therapy. He does go to one of the providers. He receives 12 hours. He's recommended or approved for 25. I'm just asking to put on the agenda, to vote. If you can open this up, let in some more providers, some more clinics, and get these kids back to the therapy that they need. That's it.
Thank you.
I do have a letter from another mother. I don't know if I can read that or.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Renee Palumbo, parent of an autistic child, she gives me written and verbal consent to read this. Regarding getting approval for Medicaid to Star Behavior Consultants facility, I would like to start off with that not all facilities are the same. I know because of all the multiple therapy facilities I've dealt with in the past. Unfortunately, none had the passion or ability to really help our children. But being on the wait list for several months, we decided to move on to places where the staff really are passionate about the work they can do in helping our kids lead a normal life. At this facility where I met Miss Tiffany Ncqa, and being aware of the children of my child's struggles, she reassured me that we will do whatever it takes to help my child. I finally felt relief that there is hope. She really provides exceptional training to her staff and parent training so that they can provide the best home care for their children. We are seeing more and more deficits that needs to be addressed, especially when they are newly diagnosed. it is imperative to seek therapy at a young age. I also wanted to mention how autism is growing dramatically, and there are so many families that really need help with the situation, being uninsured or battling financial crisis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Miller. I don't know. You said you needed my address or no?
Yep, address, please.
Okay, 37800 Joplin Drive in Clinton Township, Michigan. I'm here to also to seek a motion to open up providers in Macomb County for the all autism support services, including AVA, and for the STAR clinic. I came here just to speak off cuff and on the heart, and what I want to say now is we are too, like everyone else, suffering. There's always a shortage for direct care workers and staff and employees and people willing to work with our children, and now we're even more devastated like that with everyone else through COVID. So I came here just to speak on, we'd like to have more options to, find the best fit for our kids, and that is opening up more facilities, and some facilities that may or may not have staff. And then personally, I'd like to say thank you, Kate and Cash, due to Tiffany Claw and her co-partner at the STAR, and working with Caden for 6 years at their previous clinic. He could sit here through this. This is a result of the services that he did get at the clinic he was at, that we got discharged from in November because they didn't have staff. And that clinic is having a lot of, I had to put in an official complaint and stuff. They're having a lot of customer service issues besides staffing. So we would like to attend STAR. But the reason he could sit here through all of this was hard for us adults too, but it's due to the 6 years of training he had with Tiffany and Christy. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's done great.
Hi, my name is Carmen Zimmerman, and I'm with Creative Care Services. I'm the director there, 34360 Harper Avenue, Clinton Township, Michigan. The reason why I'm here today is thank you for your support, but I just want to tell you the staffing crisis is real. It's real. I am not a public speaker at all. It took so much guts for me to even come up here, but I promised myself I would, and I would come and tell you. So in 2020, we hired 4 people. 2021, we hired 2. We were hoping when unemployment went away and the extra monies, people would come back. It's not happening. We've hired 1 person. They stayed for 1 week, and that was it. So the last 2 weeks, I've lost 6 people. 6 people that have been with us for a long time. It's sad, but true. 1 left for retirement, so good for her. 2 left for school to better their, career choices. 3 left for caregiving jobs outside of this county. 1 went to St. Clair and 2 went to Oakland. So that disappointed me completely. So I'm here to ask, please, please help your providers in Macomb County. We don't want to go away, but some of us are in trouble. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? All right, we will close the hearing of the public. Thank you all for being here today, and I will seek a motion for adjournment. Motion from Megan, support from Donna. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good night. Drive home safely.